Young William, you are the heir to a great legacy. In time, armies of thousands will be yours to command. Knights will flock to your banner, and with the gold that will flow from your lands will come great influence. A good marriage could anchor your bloodline for generations to come and secure the throne. But the ways of power are hard, and there are many lessons to learn, young William. And today, you will learn the most important of all. Real strategy requires cunning.
Hello and welcome to my Crusader Kings 3 talk about video. Basically all the things that I learned at PDXCon during the press event that showed off the game. We got to ask some questions, and yeah, it was just stuff that I learned basically that we're going to be talking about. I will say, if you haven't already, then I recommend you go and watch my interview video as well. I managed to interview Henrik Forhus. I'm butchering that name, I so apologize. And Alexandra Altner, the creative director and the lead designer, if I remember correctly. So go and have a look at those. So yeah, you can see running in the background some of the screenshots that we got in the press packet. So you've probably seen these on a bunch of other places as well, but yeah, this is just what I have to show. So, CK3, what have we got to talk about? Well, there are 3 pillars basically that they're going to be focusing on. Characters are the first objective. Anywhere that they weren't applied in CK2, they are now a thing. They are front and center. They are the main focus of the game. And something that hasn't really been talked about in any of the press releases or at PDXCon that I've seen, but is in the interview, is things like the focus on roleplay. During my interview with Henrik, he said that there was a bit of a disconnect, as the game didn't really force you to roleplay based on your character's stats, based on your character's personality. And that has changed. If you don't do what your character would do in a certain situation, you become stressed, and the more stressed you are, the worse your character will become. Maybe becoming a drunkard to deal with the stress, or lustful to deal with the stress of not conforming to what their personality desires. So if you are a vengeful sadist and you are treating people with kindness, that's going to make you quite stressed out. If you are a very kind, forgiving person and you start going into your dungeons and torturing people, that's going to stress you out. So that I really do think is a big improvement over CK2. I'm really looking forward to playing around with it. Player freedom was the second pillar that we were told about, which mostly comes in the form of character progression. Things like the focuses for CK2 have been expanded a lot. What you now have is the skill trees that you can actually see in the background right now. You've got 5 different branches with 3 trees inside them. If you are choosing one of these branches that conforms to your education, say you have a martial education and you want to do a martial tree, you'll get a bonus. The one we saw was 20%, and I didn't manage to ask him, or remember to ask him, if that plus 20% goes up or down based on how good your education is. But there is a bonus, so you are encouraged to follow the tree that follows your education, and the AI will also generally do that. So yes, the UI looks so much cleaner. The UI in CK2 is probably the part that most people complain about with the game. It is quite dated at this point, for sure. So, a cleaner UI is certainly a lot nicer. It's a lot nicer to look at. You can see what you need to see without being lost, being confused about what you're looking at. So I like it. I like it a lot. It's very nice. And then that really comes into user friendliness, which is the third pillar. So yeah, making it accessible to use without dumbing it down so much that it's, easy. So yeah, being accessible without being dumbed down is really important. The portraits are animated. So basically what this means is if your ruler is proud and he's, trying to think of different things that would work with proud. If he's proud with a big nose and all this, you'll see that on the portrait. You can see there we've got Lord Rhiwallon. His traits are going to infer what pose he has there. You can see this guy, whoever he is, he's got his arms crossed. He looks like he's a proud man. I would not be surprised if that character had the proud trait. Something like that. Your traits inform what pose your character has. So if you get to learn what all these kind of human poses are, you can see at a glance what kind of character you'll be dealing with without going to have a look and mousing over each one of his traits to look at the tooltip. So that's really nice as well. So the map is very imperator-ish, and what I mean by that is it is very, very detailed. Very detailed. You can see on the screen here lots of little cities. Those are your Baron tier cities. You don't get to play as them. You can't play as a Baron, apparently. But they are all on the map. Instead of just being a little picture inside a UI, all of these are on the map, which gives an awful lot of depth to warfare. If you build a castle in a strategic mountain pass, that's going to be very, very useful. That's something that was actually told to us specifically, so what I'm inferring from that is zone of control is probably going to be a thing in CK3. So yeah, baronies are the lowest form of province. Unfortunately, you can't play as a theocracy anymore. I was going to say anymore, but you can't play them in CK2 either. You can't play as a theocracy. You can't play as a merchant republic, so I believe that will be no burghers either. So maybe that will come in the future, maybe it won't, who knows yet. You only have to siege things that are fortified. So if you find that castle that you can see on the map there, you have to siege that one. But if you go to a city or a temple, a cathedral kind of thing, you don't have to siege that. You can just take it pretty easily. So again, it looks like they're taking a lot of lessons from Imperator, which I am not at all unhappy about. I think that's fine. Some people will be thinking, oh, but Imperator is this and this and this. Imperator wasn't good on release for a lot of people, but there are things that it did very right, and taking the lessons from Imperator to take over things that they were doing right is, in my opinion, a good thing. The map goes from Bengal down the east coast to Pegu, up to the easternmost regions of Tibet. There is no China, but I believe that might be coming. It hasn't been confirmed to me, but I believe it might be coming because they were not too happy with the way the China mechanics worked in CK2. With, I think, was it Jade Dragon, the DLC? So I imagine at some point we will see China, but I can't confirm that, and they haven't confirmed it to me either. So yeah, the characters are based on their poses. There is Sims-like genetics. So just like with Imperator, another thing that they've taken from it is, say your character has a big nose and massive ears and white hair. those traits will be passed down to your sons and daughters, and you could probably reasonably tell who is related to who based on what they look like. Incest will play a part in this. If you dabble in excessive amounts of incest, you can end up with very negative traits, and those will be shown on the character. The Habsburg chin is certainly possible. Other things that they've done with the way genetics and looks are is if your character has the trait ugly, your character will look ugly. And apparently, I haven't seen any pictures of ugly characters, but apparently it works really well. And you can certainly tell that they are ugly, and it doesn't look like they've just, mangled the meshes to make it that way. They look naturally ugly. And the same with beautiful. They've managed to find a way to make people look beautiful if they have the beautiful trait. So that looks really, really good. The traits will have more of a breeding aspect to them as well. So if you have two characters that are very, very intelligent, they may not have the genius or quick traits, but if they're very, very intelligent, they have a chance that their offspring will be a genius or very intelligent. They may be born with the quick trait, things like that. I'm assuming that applies to others as well. If you have two very, very strong characters, your child may be born with the trait strong. Height as well, I assume, is going to be a part of it, because I believe tall was implemented in the vanilla game in CK2. I know it was originally just in a mod, but I think it was eventually integrated. Anyway, whatever. So your traits, eugenics is very much in full force, and it is encouraged. Let's put it that way. Lifestyles, so your focuses, I've spoken about them a little bit, but to expand upon them, there is your diplomatic, martial, steward, intrigue, and learning, as per usual. And you gain specific experiences with the focuses. You can see them here again. Every 2 years, roughly, you will gain one of these traits. You take another skill in the tree. You gain it passively, but there is bonuses if you have specific traits. There are bonuses for certain events that may fire. And you can switch your focus. So say you want to go halfway down the martial tree, and you're thinking, you know what, I don't really mind the rest of the traits that are on this tree. My character's really lacking in, say, learning. Maybe I'll go and switch to learning. You can switch. You can switch. There is a cooldown on it. He didn't confirm how long that cooldown is going to be, but you can switch it at will, as long as you're not within that cooldown. The full tree takes roughly 20-ish years. Of course, it depends on events and traits, and whether it's your primary, if it matches your education, that sort of thing. The AI, again, tend to fill out their relevant trees. Dynasties. This is a huge focus of the game, and from what I've seen, it looks kind of phenomenal. So, the way I like to describe it to people who didn't see the press release is think of dynasties a bit like your countries with dukes and kings. The head of the dynasty is the dynast. He is the king of that dynasty. Beneath him are various dukes. So they are the dynasty heads, the cadet branch heads. And then beneath them are all the counts, I guess, can just be the regular family members. But yeah, there are houses within a dynasty. The head of the dynasty is called the dynast, and the head of the houses fight for the dynast position. Spreading your dynasty to other realms is a fantastic way of gaining renown, which is the way that you basically level up your dynasty. It's a bit like prestige, but it's been sort of split away from character prestige. There's dynasty prestige and there's character prestige. It's different. you can spend these renown points on getting bonuses for your dynasty. They're called legacies. There are a few different trees you can go down. So war, law, guile, blood, education, I think I wrote, or erudition. Erudite. I don't. My handwriting is terrible. I'm reading from my notes. Apologies. There's glory and there's kin, and you can. I think there are of those branches. There are, I think, 10, maybe 12 bonuses that you can unlock within them. So for things like blood, there's a really fun stuff in blood where one of the bonuses you can unlock for your entire dynasty is the ability to get the congenital traits more frequently. I think it was 30% if I remember rightly. Things like, quick and strong and intelligent, beautiful, would appear 30% more frequently than they would otherwise. Or you got a 30% chance higher to get it. And other things in there is a chance for a trait to appear in your dynasty more frequently. And the example that I gave was dwarfism. You can, if you get to unlock this, you can say, okay, I'm going to have dwarves in my dynasty, and you can take this, choose dwarfism, and then you'll have more dwarves in your dynasty. Only the dynast can pick these dynasty traits. For a player, that's not too bad, because generally the player will be the dynast. Though, personally, I think it's going to be more fun to play the head of a cadet branch and try and become the dynast, and maybe the dynast is going to be picking traits for you. Other traits that I saw were things like having a chance to avoid being murdered when someone tries to assassinate you. That applies to everybody in the dynasty, without all of the cadet branches as well. So say you have a brother that is really not good for your ambitions, you can try and murder him. And while yes, if you have this trait, you have a chance of avoiding being murdered, but so does he, and he can avoid your murder attempt. So yeah, every character gets these bonuses. Prestige and piety are still resources, but you don't lose it when you spend them. So they're less currencies now and more, I now have this amount of prestige or piety or whatever, I'm going to get a bonus for this amount. But again, you don't lose that amount, because it didn't feel right. So that's also a really nice thing, I think, as well. Religions have been changed completely. They're now under the heading of faiths. So there is the Christian faith, there is the Muslim faith, Jewish faith, and underneath these faiths are the different branches of that religion, or of that faith, I should say. So Catholicism and Catharism and all these other different kinds of faiths within Christianity, and none of them are treated as like more important than the other, although Catholicism will be the biggest one. From the very start of the game, you can create a heresy, and you can choose, a bit like how Reformed religions worked in CK2, you can choose certain things that apply to your religion. Things like what your position on divorce is, what traits you get. There are tenets and doctrines. So the tenets, there are 3 main tenets that you can choose, and then doctrines, I'm not sure how many there are, but there are a bunch of them. So yeah, religions, they're built up in certain parts. Creating a new faith costs piety, and it will make you a heretic. Some provinces and vassals will follow, but not all of them. The question was then asked about the schism. So in the earliest start dates, the schism had not happened. The Orthodox faith and the Catholic faith, they were just all Catholics. he said this was an exception to the general rule of the way faiths work, but he didn't really expand on it that I saw, so I'm going to have to wait and see a bit on that one, maybe when some dev diaries come out. Again, you can't play theocrats and you can't play merchant republics. At the top of the screen, this is going away from religions now, something else. At the top of the screen, there is a widget. Basically, you mouse over it. I don't think any of the screenshots I have show this widget, but you mouse over it, it's in the top center of your screen, and it will give you important information. Things like, you are in line to inherit 2 titles. You have 2 kids without guardians. And this goes into the accessibility part of it. If you want to click that, and then you can see immediately where you should look, basically. So for these inherit 2 titles, you can click that one, and then it'll tell you, okay, you're in line to inherit titles from here and here. You are 3rd in line for this one, 2nd in line for this one. These are the people you have to kill to get that sort of thing. So instead of having to navigate through menu after menu after menu, you can just go where you need to go to find the information you need to find. Much, much easier. So much easier. There is an encyclopedia as well, which is super powerful. So you open your encyclopedia, you click the term duchy, and it'll show you a page talking about duchy. You can see on this one here, on Unpleasant Company, you can see Mayor Eben and Eustace are like highlighted. You can click on those names and get a little bit of information about them. And then in that information panel, there are more panels that you can open. And in that, you can open even more panels. And in that, you can open even more panels. Apparently, you can open thousands of panels without the game breaking, without it crashing. They've tested it thoroughly. There is a lot you can do with it. It's really kind of impressive. So yeah, Encyclopedia looks fantastic. There's new events in the game, of course. All new events, apparently, is what he said. So I don't know if it means, he's added a bunch of new events, or every event is new. I'm not sure, but more events. There are not going to be game rules. There are not going to be nomads, no supernatural stuff, no epidemics, no merchant republics, and there is no inventory system. But, perhaps in the future these things will be coming. He has said that he wants to go down the same route as Stellaris and Imperator, where major mechanics are not locked behind paywalls. So it's going to be flavor stuff that you buy and mechanic stuff that you get in the free patches. And I think that's a fantastic way of doing things. Retinues have been changed to man-at-arms. I have no idea what this means. That someone asked him, are retinues still in the game? He said they've been changed to man-at-arms. He didn't expand on it, so unfortunately can't really give anything more than that. Armies being gathered are not as annoying. Again, not much else to go on that one, but apparently when you are gathering your armies, they're not going to spawn underneath an enemy army, for example. Whether it is everyone just spawns together in one place, or whether they spawn in regions or duchy kind of areas, I don't know. I really don't know, but apparently it's better. I'm not sure how yet. There are going to be siege weapons in the game, and big changes to sieges. I don't know what that means yet, but apparently that's a thing. Tech is completely overhauled, and it's character driven. Again, no more expansion on that one either. Less percentage based techs and inventions, and they're more mechanics based. So instead of you siege 15% faster, or your heavy infantry are 5% better, it's going to be more mechanics based inventions that you get, which again I really like. There's going to be 2 start dates, 867 and 1066, which is fantastic. And that is all I have to tell you. Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with what I saw. Thoroughly impressed. I am so looking forward to getting my hands on the game. I want to do series on it. I want to cover the dev diaries. I want to do all of that stuff because I'm hype as all hell. So, thank you all very much for watching my video on what I learned at PDXCon for Crusader Kings 3. At the moment, if you want to, there is a huge sale over on Humble Bundle for CK2 with literally everything involved. Every single DLC that has ever been released. 66% off. So if you want to head on over to the link in the description, you can pick up all of CK2 stuff. If you want to follow future dev diaries, then I encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be covering them, just like I have been for Imperator. I'm hype as all hell. I hope you are too, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.